everybody, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and this is the video tutorial for making your adorable Itsy Bitsy Frog using your embroidery machine. Now you can of course use your regular sewing machine and do the buttonhole stitching or straight stitching yourself. However, this tutorial is going to show you how to do that using the embroidery files on your embroidery machine. So first, let's talk about what we need to have gathered. So I'll go over a few of my favorite tools and tell you about the materials in the kit. If you purchase the files only and not the kit, then you can use your SVG files to cut all of your pieces. You want to make sure to pre-fuse them with heat and bond light and then cut them out. If you got a kit, everything comes cut for you. You just need to free it from their little connector pieces. You'll also want to have your binding and your hanging fabric. We'll use that not till the end. You'll also want to have your background and your backing fabric. It's folded in half. Let me show you. So you have two rectangles. I'll set one up there because we'll use it in just a second. You'll have your piece of batting cut to size as the pattern instructs. Then you'll want to have a hoop that is 5 by 7. So I have just a standard hoop that came with my machine, and I use a medium tearaway stabilizer. I am experimenting with some new stabilizers from Sulky, so hopefully I am able to bring those to you soon. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm just going to hoop my stabilizer, and I'll get this started and I'll continue to tell you about the rest of the tools that we'll use. So just hoop that. Now with the embroidery file, you want to load that on a USB and load it onto your machine, or maybe you have one of the fancy machines where it takes the file through Wi-Fi or something like that, or Bluetooth. So you'll set your pieces aside. You'll want to have a rotary mat and a rotary cutter, a ruler. I'm going to set those aside though because we don't need those just yet. You'll also want to have, I recommend putting a Steady Betty right in front of your sewing machine or in front of your embroidery machine, because while we're ironing all the pieces, you don't have to go all the way over to your ironing board. You can iron right in front, so you create like a workstation for yourself. I do want to say that I'm loving these Oregon needles on my embroidery machine. So if you ever need a needle recommendation, I highly recommend those. They're fantastic. Most machines actually come with that on it. Then I also have my favorite iron. This is the Steam Fast Travel Iron. I love this thing. If you've watched a previous video tutorial from us here at Stitches of Love, this is the iron we use all the time, and I love it. Now let's talk about our thread colors that we need. So I'm going to mainly be using the Silky 40 weight rayon. I do have to substitute with another brand on a few colors just because I didn't have the color on hand that I wanted. So you're gonna have a white, which is 1001. You'll have a green, which is 1177. You'll have your hot pink, which is 1307. You'll have this golden color, 0567. A lighter pink, 1225. Now for the periwinkle color, I recommend using Sulky 1030. However, I didn't have that in my 40 weight rayon, so I am using a substitute color. What is this? Poly Neon number 40. And then you'll also want to have a Sulky 1005, which is the black, but I have actually used all of mine on my spool, so I need to order more for myself. So I'm just going to be using a standard black in the embroidery thread. So I'll set all my threads aside, and I am going to load the files onto my embroidery machine. So you do the same thing, and we'll be right back to get started. So I have the machine. You can hear it in the background going, and it's doing the very first step with the back of the little Itsy Bitsy. So I have the file loaded again for the back of the design. And I always start by making the back first. I think it just makes it easier. So what I'm gonna do is prepare my pieces. I know that what I'm gonna do first is a cute little flower on the back. So I'm gonna free those pieces, and you can see there's just little bitty pieces that you'll just lightly snip that, and your piece comes right out. Just get my scissors in there. And one more little snip. There we go. And then I know I'm gonna need the little inner part for the back, which is this cute hot pink. So I'll snip that, and I'll snip right there. So there we go. I have my pieces ready. You can see I have a little bucket jar on the side. I like to keep all my pieces and buttons and things like that in there so I don't lose it. And then I also have a little bitty trash can, which you can see I use a lot. So it's just handy to have all of that right there in your space. So what the machine has done on the very first step of, again, the back file, is stitch one rectangle for us. This is our placement guide for our backing piece. So our front and our back are the same, but you might be using different fabric. So I'm just gonna put this in place. You can choose to tape it if you want. I'm not going to. Well, no, I will. If I don't tape it when I'm on film, I'll mess up. So I'm just gonna use a little bitty piece of medical tape right up here at the top. And I'll do a little piece right at the bottom. I try and put the tape where I'm not gonna have to stitch through it, you know, because the tape is sticky. I don't wanna gunk up my needle. So you'll put this back on and you'll proceed to the next step. Now the next step on the machine that will automatically stitch is going to be an outline of the rectangle, the same rectangle it did before. And then it's also gonna give you an outline for your first applique piece, which is gonna be this yellow flower. So we'll be back in just a moment to iron on our first piece. So when you take your hoop off the arm of your machine, I know it's difficult to see in the video, but there is in white stitched a little flower. So I'm gonna put that down in front of me on my Steady Betty. Again, the Steady Betty makes it really easy to iron right in front of my sewing machine, so I don't have to go to a different workstation. And I'm going to put my flower right in place. So your piece is gonna fit perfectly inside the stitched outline. And we're just gonna iron it in place. Now again, I'm leaving white thread on my machine. The machine is gonna do the next step, which is to give me an outline of where to put the flower center. So your machine is now giving you that outline. So let's iron our final applique piece on for the back. And again, it's not symmetrical, so you'll wanna turn it until you have it facing the right direction, and it'll fit perfectly inside that little oval circle area. And just iron that on. Isn't that gonna be so cute? It adds such a fun little accent. So now it's time to do our first thread color change. So what we're gonna do is change to our 0567, this yellow color, and the machine is going to go to the next step, which is gonna be a buttonhole stitch around the outer flower. How sweet does your little flower look now that it's got the gold stitching around the outside? Now it is time to change to your hot pink color, and I'm using Silky 1307, and this is gonna be the final step of making the back. It's gonna do the buttonhole stitch and then the cute little accent in the center of your flower. And just like that, you have an adorable flower totally done using your embroidery machine. So nice and convenient. So now let's remove this. We're gonna set it aside. I like to trim everything at the end. You can go on and trim it if you want, but I just wait till the end. And we're going to re-hoop and load the file for the front. So we'll be back in just a second with that first step for the front. So now the machine is going and it's stitching an outline for the front of the Itsy Bitsy. So let's get ready for that. So we have our piece of batting and we have our piece of background fabric. So I'm going to iron a little wrinkle out of my background fabric where it was folded. And I'm gonna place it with my batting, just like this. And I'll give that a nice press. Only takes a second. There we go. So now we are going to take our hoop, and again, I have the file loaded for the front of our mug rug, and you just put this right in place. And I will do just a smidge of tape. You can use as much or as little tape as you want. The main thing is for you to feel comfortable doing your project and for you to enjoy it. So use the tools at your disposal that you like to use. So we'll put this back on. And the machine is now going to base that down into place, and it's gonna give us an outline of our first applique pieces. So let's go on and take this time to get all of our applique pieces ready. So I'm going to just snip the little pieces free. Now I'm using the Karen K. Buckley scissors. I really like these scissors. They're sharp all the way to the end. There we go. And you can see this piece, it has a little slit right here. There's a lot of layering in this one, and I'll show you more about that when we get to it. And then this is just a straight clip. Another straight little clip. So right now you're just preparing all of your pieces. You're just snipping them free. We do it this way so that one, we make sure you get all your pieces in your kit, and two, it helps you when you're opening a kit that has a lot of small pieces, you don't lose them. Because that can happen when you open your kit and you're excited to do it and then you're like, whoops, or you walk away, you get distracted. So we just help you and it helps us make sure you get everything that you need. And I always do it where it's very easy to just do a straight line snip. And then our big flower, isn't that a pretty yellow? It's such a bright. And it's funny, when I'm talking about the thread, I always call it gold. When I talk about the fabric, I call it yellow. But really, I think the thread that I choose is a little gold. I like the accent that it gives on it. And a little snip here. So now the machine is ready for our first round of pieces. We'll snip those in a second. I know that the first round is gonna be all our little green pieces. So I'm gonna get those out and ready. So we'll take this, and you can see that because you have your batting there, it's already gonna give it that dimensional quilted look. You can see, I think you guys can see the dimension on the camera. You'll see it in real life when you're making it. So we have 4 pieces to put on. Actually, we don't need the face, and we need the little bug. Mom calls it a lightning bug, but I called it a bug in the pattern, so. You can call this little flying bug whatever you want to call it. There we go. Just get that ironed right on. And now this is our bottom piece. Right here. And again, your pieces are gonna fit in perfectly. There we go. And now we have one arm right here. I just love making these little itsy bitsy projects. I hope you do too. I love making the mug rug and zipper bag and the hoop. Basically, I just really love using the embroidery machine with the laser cut pieces. I think it makes it so much more enjoyable than having to do the tack down lines and trimming and all of that. I am not a fan of that. And you know, before we did it this way, we went to so many digitizers for them to do this for us, and no one quite got it the right way. So we learned to do it ourselves, which is fun. So we're gonna put this back on, and your machine is now gonna stitch the second line of outlines for you. So let's just continue. We'll keep the camera rolling and we'll finish getting our pieces ready. I do want to talk about the white. You'll notice that the white is double lined, so it feels a lot thicker than the other pieces. The reason we double line it is so that with a white, or sometimes even light colors, you will see through what's behind it. And we don't want that, right? There we go. Just trim that a little better. So you'll just free them. There we go. So now let's just start peeling all of our backing. So you can do this. Basically, when I'm doing the machine embroidery, I like to use my time wisely. So while the machine is doing something, I continue doing what I need to get everything ready. So let's do that together. Hopefully you're sewing right along with me. There we go. All right. So there we go. So we'll be back in just a second to iron on our next round of pieces. So your machine is now giving you a second round of pieces to iron on. So let's do that. So the first one we're gonna iron on is the little white wings on our bug. There we go. And with a little piece, I kind of get it started with the edge of the iron, and then I iron it on. Now let's talk about the layering of these 4 pieces. If you'll notice, right here, let me make sure I'm getting good in the camera. The face of your frog is over the arms and the legs, but it's under your yellow flower. And then you can say your yellow flower is over your face, but it's under and over the hands. So the hands are gonna tuck in. So we need to put all 4 of these pieces down at one time before we iron it. So let's start getting the pieces in position. I'm gonna start by putting my 2 little hands there. And again, I'm not ironing just yet. Now it's time to line up which way our flower goes. Let's see, that's it. Nope, let's see, you gotta turn it so you get it just right. Is that it? Nope, y'all. There we go. Just turn it till you get it. So now I'm going to use my hand to flip this over. So you can see part of the body is tucking behind. Just want to make sure I'm getting everything in place. And then I'm going to put my hand right here and hold that and flip this hand up. There we go. He'll go right into place. I'm just going to make sure I'm staying in my outlines. There we go. And now it's time to put his little face in position. So I'm going to use my hand to hold that. And so I'm just going to slide it under and line up my pieces. All right. So it takes a second to get these layers just right. But once you do, just take your iron and I'm going to go right over it so I get everything in place. And then I can move to the sides. There we go. So now what we're going to do is our first color change. We're going to now load a gold thread, the 0567, I believe it is. Yes, 0567 into our machine. And let me just explain why, the thought process behind going on and doing some of the stitching before we go on and continue ironing on other layers. And that is because we have this accent stitching, right, on the yellow part of the flower. If I had you go on and iron the rest of the pieces on before we did this gold stitching right now, your machine would have to do just one quick little line in, right? And that would not be effective. So how we digitized it for you is that it's going to come and go and do all of your accent stitching. And then you'll do your buttonhole stitch, and then you'll be able to continue and putting on your layers, okay? So just want to give you the thought process behind why we digitize things the way we do. So again, load your gold thread and move on to the next step. So you can see that your gold is now stitched and you have all your accent stitching within your flower. So now we're going to take that same principle we just did and we're going to apply that to the pink. So you're going to change to your hot pink color, which is 1307. And the machine is now going to do an outline for your flower. We'll come back and iron it on, and then it will do the buttonhole stitching for that piece. And then we'll switch back to white and continue with our applique layers. So you can see that your machine is now giving you an outline for the center or the next layer of your flower. So we're just going to turn that until it fits. And we are going to iron this right in to place. There we go. Now, again, you're going to keep that pink color, the hot pink color on your machine. And the machine is going to do the accent stitching and the buttonhole stitching on this pink piece. And while we have the pink thread on, we're going to go on and do his little mouth, okay? So cute. Don't you love your little frog starting to come to life? I mean, yes, he needs more pieces still, but you can start to see, I think once he gets his little mouth, he looks so cute. It's probably a girl frog, actually. So now we are going to switch back to our white thread, and we're going to continue with our applique placement. So with your white thread on, your machine is going to give you an outline of where to put your final flower center piece, your two cheeks, and your two eyes. Okay, so you can see that we have the final rounds of pieces outlined for us. So let's iron them on. We are going to put our flower center in place, and just make sure you get that turned the right direction. There we go. And now for the itty bitty pieces, we have our white. And with white, sometimes I think it's hard to tell which side has the fusible on. So make sure you don't accidentally put it where the sticky side is up, because then it would stick to your iron. And that wouldn't be good, would it? So we'll get one. And the circles are symmetrical, right? It's a perfect circle. So you don't have to worry about if you have it facing the right direction. And then again, make sure you get the fusible side down on the white. Whoop. And iron that on. And now our cute little cheeks. So sweet. Whoop. And I just sort of put it in position and take my fingers away on a small piece like that. Even with a little iron, I don't like my fingers to be burned. So I'll get that right in place. Look at that, it's so cute. So again, we've had white thread on our machine for this last step. We're gonna keep that white thread on for one more step. and our machine is going to do the buttonhole stitch on our white pieces for us. So all of your white pieces are now perfectly buttonhole stitched by your embroidery machine. Don't you love that? So now it is time to load the green color, and it's 1177 that I'm loading, and your machine is going to do the buttonhole stitch on all of your frog pieces. So his legs, his arms, his face, and then the stem of the flower. So all of your green is now stitched, and it's time to load the golden color one last time, and that is going to do the buttonhole stitch on the very flower center, and it's going to do the cute little swirl inside. So the gold color that I'm using is 0567. So now your machine just finished stitching the final gold for you. So now it is time to change to this light pink color, and I'm using 1225. So your machine is now going to do the two cheeks and the cute little antennas on your bug. So now you're almost done. The machine just finished the light pink, so it did your little antennas and it did your two cheeks. Now it is time to load your lavender color. If you have the silky, the color that matches great is 1030. I am using, for this case, a poly neon number 40. It's a really pretty like lavender blue color. So we will put that on, and then we'll come back to finish our eyeballs. Look how cute your little bug is. He's so sweet. I love it. So now we're going to load our final color, which is to do his little eyeballs. So we are going to load a black thread. If you have the silky, black is 1005. And just like that, you've completed the front of your Itsy Bitsy Frog in your embroidery machine hoop. So much fun. So now let's trim at our button and talk about how we finish it off. So I'm just going to remove my tape real fast. And let's trim. First things first. So I'm going to put my hoop out of the way. And what I've done is I've taken my little Olfa 12x18 rotary mat and I've placed it on top of my Steady Betty. So we're going to trim. So the first thing we'll do is trim the front. You can trim right on the white line, or you can go a little past. So this month, the design, you're gonna catch a little bit of your flower in the binding. If you don't wanna do that, you can go a little wider if you want. I'm gonna go about right on the line. There we go. Whoop, I caught my thread. There we go. So we'll just trim right here. And you know, some months I trim past the stitched line if I want to make it just a hair bigger. But when you trim on the line, it makes it easier to tear out your stabilizer in the back. And again, your design is going to get caught in the binding, and that's on purpose. And then one more time. Oh my gosh, how cute is that? I love it. If you don't want your design caught in the binding, you have enough fabric, by the way, where you could cut just a hair off of like maybe 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch around your stitched line, and that way your design wouldn't be caught in the seam. But I like it. It's going to be really cute and vivid with it caught. I love it. So now let's just pull some of this tearaway. I will be honest, because it's going to hang, I'm not going to bother with taking all the stabilizer out from within the design. There's just no need to me to do that, and I rarely do it in my mug rugs or my zipper bags, and I've in all these years never had an issue with it. So you can of course take as much or as little away as you want. The choice is yours. And if you're giving this as a gift, they'll never know because it'll be inside. All right, so there's the front. How cute is that, you guys? Do you love it? And now let's trim our back. I love the little flower. So every month I take one motif from Mom's, like the design on the front. Mom designs all of them. Julie, I call her Mom, so I refer to her as Mom. But I always take one motif from the front and bring it to the back. I think that's just a really fun accent, and I know if you've watched the tutorials before, you know that a lot of times, like especially with the mini of the month, I put it in my kitchen window. And this is probably likely that you're gonna have it hanging on your act-filled stand against a wall, but just in case you have it where maybe it's seen from another side, it's got a little something cute and special. Now, another great thing, if you're giving this as a gift, or if you just wanna remember when you made it for yourself, you can take a Pigma pen and you can sign right here beside your little accent on your back, or put the date or put the name of it. So it's a really nice little thing to do. Make sure you use a Pigma pen though, so that it doesn't disappear if it does end up getting washed. I wouldn't put these in a washing machine or anything. I would just hand wash it if you needed to. Likely chance it'll get dirty is slim, I'm sure. So now let's take this out of the way. And so to finish it off, you'll put these sides together, and you can baste it if you want, but you're ready to go straight to binding with the exception of your little hang tag. So the back has this cute little tab right here that works as a hanging sleeve, and that's really easy to make. So let me get where I can iron. Let me move my mat, and I'll show you quickly how easy it is to do that. So you can measure if you want. I'm not gonna measure it, but you just fold that once and fold it twice. It's roughly a 1/4 inch. I think that's probably a little slimmer than a 1/4 inch. And just iron it. And then we'll do the same thing right here. A little fold, a little fold. And you're just doing this so you don't have a raw edge. And then, oh, hot. And then fold it in half one last time and press it. There we go. And so when you're putting your binding on, you'll want to pin this in place right here. Right there at the top of your binding. So you can see you have the raw edges together right here. And then that way you'll be ready to start your binding, and you'll have a cute little hanging sleeve that'll go right in on your little acrylic wire hanger. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. I hope that you had fun making this and that you enjoy it every time you see it. And again, we do have a video tutorial on the single fold binding. This isn't a double fold binding, it's a single fold binding because it's such a little project. You don't want to have that bulk of a large binding to work with. So check out that video tutorial. Julie, my mom, makes it really easy for you to do without any special tools. So happy stitching, everyone.